Hello, my name is Andrew Thate from Minds and Money, and I'm delighted to be joined with today by Keith Russell, who's a director at Partners in Performance. Delighted to have you with us today, Keith.
Oh, it's good to be here. Thank you very much.
Keith, we'll be meeting you in person at our May Minds and Money London Connect event. And at that event, you'll be talking about the circular economy. How does that exactly apply to the mining industry?
Well, obviously, it has a major impact in terms of the demand projections that everybody has for the various metals. Some metals will be able to be recycled much more effectively than others, but certainly going to have an impact on it. And it also has an impact on the smelting industry, because obviously, in order to be able to really have a circular economy as far as metals are concerned, then we have to recover them from the waste streams, from the used product, and then take them back through smelting to turn them back into pure metal so that we can take them forward. That has an impact in terms of the smelting design. It also has an impact in terms of making sure that the supply chains are working effectively. And then, of course, in today's world, then there's a demand to make sure that the smelters are operating in a low carbon manner, so that we aren't coming up with a contribution which was an unintended effect on recycling.
What can the industry do to really help take this sort of circular economy as a concept into an action and policy? I guess, I mean, you obviously mentioned some of the areas in terms of the areas of like recycling, but here I'm specifically interested in actually what Partners in Performance have actually done to help facilitate this amongst your clients.
So we've worked in a variety of areas. We've certainly worked for some on the collection side. Obviously, we have to start with some of the scrap collection, the sorting, the separation. Then we've worked with a number of our clients who have been involved on the smelting side, as they have then been able to take that, put that through the smelters, separate out the various precious metals, gold, the various elements. That's very much on the precious metals and the base metals side. Obviously, we've worked in the aluminum industry, which has got a very high recycling rate, in order to be able to make sure that they've got the collection that's required, and the injection of used material into that production stream. And then obviously there's steel, which also has got a significant reuse in the scrap furnaces, the EAF furnaces. So we've been quite involved in helping companies increase that. But I don't want to even just stop just at the recycling of the metals. I think that the circular economy also means that we're thinking very seriously about the overall flows that are associated with building a mine. So as you build a new mine, now I think our clients, and we're working with them to make sure that they're thinking about reclamation. They're thinking about the reuse of the mine itself as it gets to the end of its useful life, rather than just being a scar on the landscape. It's how do I reclaim it? How do I make that into a useful piece of land? Some have even gone to using multiple pits for pumped hydro, so that they can use it from an electricity generation and storage perspective. So there's a variety of ways that people have to start thinking about the longer term as they are designing everything, rather than just doing it on a once through.
I think we can all agree that one of the key issues facing the world today is that of climate change. Is the mining industry doing enough, and what more can it do?
So I think the mining industry has responded very well in terms of setting some targets, sometimes aggressive, sometimes not so aggressive, but I think in general, quite aggressive. I would say most of my clients have got a target which is at least 30 by 30 in terms of their reduction in carbon. And most of them are in the process of committing to net zero by 2050. So I think that they're making good progress in terms of the targets. Now, that isn't to say we're there yet. I think that then there's a series of steps that really need to be made to be able to take those targets and really bring them to life. I don't want this to be a nice glossy report with my roadmap, but I want real action plans with real actions behind them and real implementation. And so I think that the mining industry has still got a way to go before those targets get translated into monthly and annual targets and get baked into short-term compensation plans. Because when that happens, then you know full well that you'll have got the executives' hearts and minds fully focused on this as an objective. But there's no question that when I talk to my clients at the board level, the CEO level, and at the C-suite level, that this is one of the absolute major priorities for them. It's on their agenda, and they're devoting real resources and attention to it.
Mm-hmm. A sort of like cycle and like question to that. I was speaking to someone earlier today, and we were remarking that at COP26, one of their biggest frustrations was that the mining industry was largely uninvited to COP26. What do you think? What do you think needs to further happen for it to get invited to kind of play a more central role in COP27?
Well, I think that, as you say, it's a question of really the industry as a whole demonstrating the progress that they're making and the commitment that they're making. And of course, the absolutely central part in terms of delivering, because otherwise I think we're also at the stage where I see a lot of countries and companies making grand plans in terms of what they're going to end up doing by 2030 as far as decarbonisation, but they're all doing it in isolation, as though they're the only person who is pursuing this particular plan, without actually stopping and thinking of how much copper am I going to need, how much platinum am I going to need, how much supply chain, how many wind turbines, how many solar panels, will all of that supply chain really work? And so I think that it's very important that the mining and metals industry is an integral part of the conversation, because they will be supplying precious materials and scarce raw materials in order to be able to ensure that this transition happens.
Mm-hmm. You just mentioned decarbonisation there. Again, I'm just kind of keen, just particularly on that, is what role do you personally think that uranium has to play within that, and what role do you think that clean coal technologies has to play?
Oh, now you're getting me into a slightly political area. I certainly think that uranium and nuclear will continue to play a key role. I think that there are many opportunities for it. I think that the small modular nuclear reactors, which are being planned for the end of this decade, early next, I think will be an excellent source of power and in a variety of areas. I think that society is going to find it very interesting in the challenge as far as clean coal. It's certainly an improvement, and I think that there is a lot of baseload that needs to be cleaned up. But I also think that there is a very, very large potential for the globe to end up with significantly more renewables in the form of wind, solar, hydro, for that matter, nuclear, rather than relying on fossil fuel. So my personal bet is I expect to see that the coal will end up being a diminishing part, but that coal which does remain absolutely should be pursuing as far as clean coal, so that we're making sure that we've got the limited impact, and also pursuing carbon capture to make sure that we are dealing with this appropriately.
One area that a lot of mining companies are now like working towards is to go and create the electric mine of the future with zero emissions. We could have touched on it slightly sort of like earlier, but how well do you think they are progressing towards that? Are there any particular sort of like areas of like development or focus that you're particularly seeing there?
So certainly seeing, first off, that mining companies are addressing scope 2. That's very clear, and that's some big moves for them as they end up moving off the grid, well, sometimes still on the grid, but moving to renewables and clean energy and clean power. So that's definitely happening. All my clients are busily looking at what is that mine of the future and what does that mean in terms of a low carbon ore haulage. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that everybody is pursuing that it has to be electric. I think some are definitely looking at it in terms of a hydrogen combustion. Some are certainly looking at a hydrogen fuel cell. I think that the bias is definitely towards electric. And I think that there's still several steps that need to happen as far as the technology is concerned to ensure that we're getting the energy densities so that the batteries that are required in the haul trucks really do get small enough to make it effective. I mean, if you have a 60-ton battery in your haul truck, you're taking an enormous amount of energy just to move the battery around rather than being able to use the power for motive. Now, having said that, I see a lot of no regrets progress going on in terms of trolley assist, in-pit crush convey, and I do see the combination of decarbonisation and automation and connectivity all coming together so that you can end up with perhaps slightly smaller haul trucks, automated and connected to in sort of swarm technology so that we end up achieving it. Now, I've been talking very much here as I've responded as far as open pit is concerned. I think underground, I think that one is very clear that we can move to an electric underground. I think that the technology is clearly demonstrating that it's well on the pathway to being successful in terms of an all-electric underground. There are many electric underground mines now, and I think that that's becoming much more pervasive in all of the discussions that I'm having with miners as they're looking at new developments.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on Mines Money TV, and that was Keith Russell, Director of Partners in Performance. Keith will be one of the speakers at our Mines and Money May London Connect event taking place on the 4th to 5th of May. This was Andrew Thake from Mines and Money. Thank you.